Elon Musk on finally.
Listen, we are here as part of the launch of a news interview show that is going to be on X.com.
You want me to start off with tweeting and drug use? This is where it goes off the hinges?
Listen, I'm not asking you anything that anyone else hasn't asked you about your controversial stuff that you tweet. You post a lot of controversial stuff. Is that...
Bro, this is the ugliest watermark I've ever done graced my eyes on, okay? I've never seen such a ugly...
considered blowing off steam?
Too. Like, what is this? It's like Venn diagrams? Like, what the... What are they doing? And the color scheme is like awful too. Holy sh!
Well, I guess I do enjoy using the platform. I mean, I do call the X platform the PvP or player versus player platform. So in video games, there's player versus like environment where you're not playing against other people.
I'm such a nerd playing against other people.
You have a ketamine prescription.
Yeah.
What's that for?
Well, I mean, it's pretty private to ask somebody about a medical prescription, you know. But I think it's something I'd say like there are times when I have I don't know like a negative chemical state in my brain. Like depression, I guess, you know, is or like.
By the way, I think like the fact that he's prodding on the ketamine use is pretty annoying. My controversial opinion on this is that like it's none of your business. Ketamine does have uses. It's like relatively experimental, especially for people with like serious mental health problems. I do think that like, especially if it's like doctor administered, it's like, come on. I mean, I hate him. I suspect he might be even doing more than he's supposed to be. Overall, like this part of the interview is like the part that he got the most mad at, Elon did, but it's also like the least significant aspect of it.
I mean, you can't really get work done. So I have a lot of work. So I'm typically putting in like, 16-hour days. That's normal for me. And it's rare for me to even take off a weekend day.
Motherfucker, we can see you posting tweets. We know your ain't working. The do you mean? The biggest lie ever told by bosses is that they're working super hard, okay? The Venn diagram of people who were yelling at me about streaming being a hard job because they misunderstood what I was saying, and Elon Musk works really hard is a circle. Straight up.
Ketamine is helpful for getting you out of a depressive mind state.
You suffer from depression, or you have a depressive mind state? And I asked you as someone who has suffered from depression.
I wouldn't say that I have like a case of like extended depression. It's just once in a while.
I think grilling him about his prescribed drug use is crazy. Like, you're just relying on the broader public not knowing enough about ketamine for it to come across as controversial. It's up. I do hate Elon Musk, as you guys know. It's not a secret, but this is like one issue where it's like he's just like prodding.
Yeah, I'm generally pretty positive and optimistic, but once in a while, I don't know what happens to some. Like I said, I think it's just chemical tides in your brain. Once in a while, it's like a brain storm.
It's also really funny because like Elon Musk has to come up with like a super cool reason as to why he's, being treated with ketamine therapy for his clinical depression. Yeah, it's because my mind is like a storm. You don't understand it. Your mind is not like a storm, but my mind is like one. And that's why I need it to tame what goes on in there. Sometimes when I'm sitting by myself, my thoughts, they scare me.
Worry that this may get in the way of your government contracts and clearances, and also and Wall Street as well.
Well, from a standpoint of Wall Street, what matters is execution.
Not really. Not necessarily. Obviously, his execution has been dogged with Twitter, but that hasn't impacted people's assessment of the Tesla stock.
Some of the things that you post, a great replacement theory. You claim that Democrats, President Biden's immigration plan to open up the border, you said that the president is getting, and Democrats are doing it to get more votes. But undocumented immigrants cannot vote in federal elections, so how is that possible?
Well, you're conflating two things. One is great replacement theory. The other is, which I don't subscribe to that. I'm simply saying that there is an incentive here. If legal immigrants, which I think have a very strong bias to, at least everything I've read, it's a very strong bias to vote Democrat.
How can illegal immigrants vote, Elon? How can they vote? They don't have documents, Elon. How can they vote? They have a very strong bias towards Democrats.
A simple incentive to increase voters, Democrat voters. And yeah, so the question is like how? So there's a few ways that this works.
It's so funny that this guy is like still celebrated as like a brilliant dude by the dumbest people you've ever seen in your entire life. It's like, dude, you have such a strong opinion on this matter, and you haven't even done any of the reading. Like, you don't even know the racist talking points at this point. You're just like regurgitating what other dumb racists have said. Like, you didn't even look through the talking points to come up with like an answer?
When the census is done, the census is based on all people in an area, whether they are citizens or not. So if there are a concentration of people who came here illegally in a particular state, that state will actually then get an increased number of House seats. So the House seat apportionment is proportionate to the number of people, not the number of citizens.
Okay. The number of citizens. How does that work for Texas then? Shouldn't Texas have like an incentive for more undocumented migrants? That doesn't make no sense.
So the illegals overwhelmingly go to places like California, New New York.
No, they don't. They go to California and they go to Arizona and they go to Texas. They go to New York now, at least like we're talking about border crossers. 52% of undocumented migrants are visa overstayers, like Elon Musk himself. But Texas hates undocumented migrants so much, they're shipping them to New York, 37,000 and even more in New York, if I'm not mistaken on the numbers.
Electoral college is in place is to balance that so that doesn't happen. So what you're saying about it is the exact opposite of the reason why the electoral college is there. The electoral college at this point in our history gives people who are in smaller states and red states.
Yeah, let's abolish the Electoral College. Let's abolish the Electoral College, Elon, if undocumented migrants are getting too much. I like that he talked about 20 House seats that the Democrats would lose. I don't know about that analysis to begin with, but what the would happen to Texas then? Also, if this was so beneficial for the representatives there beyond the economic impact, why is Texas shipping them off then? If unauthorized immigrants were excluded from the apportionment count, California, Florida, and Texas would, so it's actually 3, they would lose one less congressional seat than they would have been awarded based on population change alone. California would lose 2 seats instead of 1. Florida would gain 1 instead of 2, and Texas would gain 2 instead of 3, according to the analysis based on projections of Census Bureau 2019 population estimates. Oh, because of California's undocumented immigrants population percentage. Alabama, Minnesota, and Ohio would each hold on to a seat if they would have lost apportionment based on total population change. In addition to these states, 11 more would gain or lose seats based on population change alone. Whether unauthorized immigrants are included or excluded, 5 seats would gain 1 each. Arizona, Colorado, Montana, North Carolina, Oregon. 6 states would lose 1 seat each. Illinois, Michigan, New York, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, and West Virginia. So it's not 20. So the proper counter to the idea that blue states gain seats is that red states would lose seats? No. Red states would gain seats, blue states would lose seats. The problem is, however, if that was what's so beneficial for them, given that undocumented migrants, as Elon also loosely agreed to without openly stating it, then all these states would have an incentive to continue having more undocumented immigrants.
The red states, because they tend to be smaller and less populous.
I think that statement is
yeah, I mean, I agree. I think the solution is to abolish redistricting and also abolish the Electoral College.
the math, as I understand it. You can research this obviously very easily on it. It's pretty straightforward to research this. But my understanding is that there would be that the Democrats would lose approximately 20 seats in the House if illegals were not counted in census, and that's also 20 less electoral votes for president.
It's wrong. The numbers are wrong, but it doesn't matter. If that was the case, then they would open up their board. Red states could just easily open up their borders, or rather, you could just abolish the Electoral College if that's such a big problem.
I'm not buying some great replacement theory. I'm simply saying there appears to be a very clear incentive for Democrats to maximize the number of illegals because it helps them win elections.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Democrats are carting and courting undocumented migrants into their states so they can get like 5 additional seats is so goddamn stupid. It's just idiotic. Doesn't make any sense because the Democrats win the majority vote. They literally would benefit from having elections be played out. They would do better if we did away with redistricting and remapped all of the states with normal district boundaries rather than ones that benefit the Republican Party overwhelmingly. There are a couple cases where it benefits Democrats, but very few in comparison to how much Republicans benefit from redistricting. The reason why we count undocumented migrants in the census is because they're humans that live there. It's the same reason why we count prisoners in the census. Just because they don't have a vote does not change the reality that they're human beings. It's the same reason why we count people who are like H-1B visa holders, because they're still human beings and therefore they need access to certain funds. Okay. They're still going to utilize certain resources like roads, basically. Like that. Yeah, we count people who are under the age of 18 as well, regardless of the fact that they can vote or not. It is so stupid. Elon is unironically doing like a 3/5 compromise style solution here. Like it makes no goddamn sense. Just because someone does not have the right to vote doesn't change that they're still a human being. I think another thing that Elon Musk is discounting here is that population size counts for congressional seats, except Republicans get congressional seats in the state of California as well. Regardless, the reason why undocumented migrants, just like children under the age of 18, are counted in the census is because they're still human beings and we have to account for their existence when funding certain things. No matter how much that dumb tries to claim it's for different reasons. And if it truly was an electoral problem, then the Republicans would be advocating to abolish the Electoral College. Congress season funding for something are not correlated. You can do both separately. Okay, let's abolish the Senate then. The you mean, dumb? Why the does Wyoming get 2 senators and so does California? Okay, it. How about that? This is so stupid, dude. Cows should be able to vote. Cows do vote. Wyoming votes like they have cows. 500,000 citizens, 2.5 million cows. The are we doing?
Do you understand the connection between the two? There's a connection between, you said Democrats, the Great Replacement theory, but when it comes to the actual Great Replacement theory, originally it was started about Jewish people, as you said, flooding in the country, and then now people are using it for Democrats, saying the same thing about Democrats. Flooding.
My view is a simple matter of incentives.
Yeah.
I actually don't see an incentive for Jewish people to want to have illegal immigration. I don't think there is such an incentive.
Why did he like the Jews are replacing the population tweet then and said, I agree with it? I don't get it.
It's in the neo-Nazi manifesto. It's in the Turner Diaries. It's referenced by the Buffalo mass shooter. In his manifesto, where 10 people, black people, were murdered in Buffalo. His actual title is the Christchurch Shooters Manifesto. 51 people in the Muslim mosque were murdered. 23 people murdered in El Paso by a shooter who used the same language that you use in that manifesto when you say Hispanic invasion. Is that not?
I didn't say Hispanic invasion.
You quoted a tweet that called it a Hispanic invasion.
If I quote something, it doesn't mean I agree with everything in it.
You quote tweeted it by saying, I agree with this. You also responded to a bunch of tweets that had the exact same sentiment displayed in it that you said, that's so true, concerning. When he says concerning or interesting, I think he means like, I'm concerned with this tweet being on my platform. Okay, Jewish communities have been pushing the exact kind of dialectical hatred against whites that they claim to want people to stop using against them. I'm deeply disinterested in giving the tiniest now about Western Jewish populations coming to the disturbing realization that those hordes of minorities that support flooding their country don't exactly like them too much. You want the truth said to your face? There it is. 22,000 likes. Elon Musk turned around and responded to it and said, you have said the actual truth. 37,000 likes. I guess he wasn't agreeing with it though. This video, while they have us distracted, this is the tweet in question. While they have us distracted, a massive caravan is marching to storm our border. This is not a crisis. It's an invasion. The scale of illegal immigration across the U.S. southern border is staggering. When he quote retweeted end wokeness and said this and got 355,000 likes, I think he was saying like, I don't agree with it. That's why I'm only appearing to agree with it. And I'm saying I agree with it. There is no way out of this. Don Lemon, you're a journalist. Well, kind of, not really. Why don't you read out the tweet back to him and say, what did you mean by this?
I think this is something worth people should consider.
Why would you quote something that you didn't believe?
Because anything I quote is going to have a whole range of statements. Doesn't mean I agree with everything in it.
Do you think if you moderated yourself more, if there was...
No, don't move off this. No, don't give him an out. Oh, do you think you should moderate yourself more? No, you're just like bullying him now for being a dumb... No, hit him where it actually hurts. God damn, dude. Because the moment that you drop what he just said as a counter is the moment that you conceded. I hate when journalists do this.
These are just a handful of extremely... You look at those anti-Semitic and racist tropes and tweets, and as of this morning, they're still on X. And from your own content policy, these posts should have been deleted. So why haven't they been deleted? Why are they still there?
We delete things if they are illegal.
But these have been up there for a while.
Are they illegal?
They're not illegal, but they're hateful, and they...
Why did he restore the account of a dude who watermarked the most like famous version of CSAM would be my question, considering that like they posted it and they were banned and then you petitioned to unban them.
You're putting your thumb on the scale for moderating hate speech. I mean, you don't put out child pornography. That's not...
It's illegal.
Some people would say that's considered censorship. I'm just saying, you...
No, I literally, Don, I literally said, if something is legal, okay, we will obviously remove it.
Okay.
He's hiding behind the legality argument as it pertains to anti-Semitic hate speech manifesting on his platform. Obviously, he has to remove it in like places like Germany. So the question should be, okay, I don't care about the legality. I care about what you think. Do you think this stuff is good to have on your platform? Do you agree that it should be illegal? It should continue to be legal? Do you disagree with the German? Why don't you fight against Germany?
But if it is not legal, if the laws in this country are put forward by the citizens, we're a democracy. If those laws put in place by the people, we adhere to those laws.
Okay, I agree.
To the laws of others. If you go beyond the law, you're actually going beyond the will of the people.
Okay, agreed with the law. But if you are doing something that promotes hate and violence and ultimately leads to killing, you don't feel you have any responsibility not to do that? When the people who are doing it admittedly are saying...
There's articles all the time that lead to violence and killing.
I'm shocked at how he's having a hard time with his dumbass because he's not a very smart guy. Earlier in the conversation, he's talking about like great replacement. Elon very clearly has said things that go far beyond just like, oh, Democrats are taking advantage of the Electoral College by allowing undocumented immigration. He could have easily said, okay, if that was the case, then Republicans would be advocating to end the Electoral College, but we both know that that would actually hurt them, and that's why they don't advocate for that. So clearly, this is beyond such sensibilities. It has something to do with the race, the perceived race of what the undocumented migrants are, which you know as well because you've talked about the culture of the people that are coming in, or at least agreed with the culture argument of the people that are coming into the country on numerous times. Another area where he flubbed was like his own personal assessment. Like he should have held his feet to the fire, held him accountable for the things that he said, specifically as it pertains to the great replacement boosting that he's done, the narrative that like migrants are invading the country, things of that nature. Just read back directly to him his quote retweet. Beyond that, you should have asked him why he personally played a role in reinstating the account of Dom Lucre, a person who watermarked his own child sexual abuse material. Child sexual abuse material that is so famous, so infamous, that having it on your computer immediately puts you in prison. Dom Lucre not only has it, he watermarked it and he distributed it on your platform, and you personally played a role in reinstating his account. What's going on there? That was illegal.
Your own content policy. That's why I'm asking you that, not because...
Which part about content policy says that we should delete these things?
Your content policy talks about hate speech.
Yes, we don't promote hate speech.
And so you don't consider that hate speech?
I guess you're not understanding what I'm saying. You can find, like, you can sign up right now and do 100 things that are hateful. But if nobody reads it, it doesn't matter.
That's your argument? Okay, what if everybody reads it? Then you're technically promoting it, I guess. Also, you have personally promoted hate speech. God, that's so stupid. That is such a dumb argument. Oh my God. Dude, this is literally Mr. Bonicello's argument about saying the N-word in the vacuum of space if no one is there to hear it. Also ironic because Mr. Bonarelli also says it in public on the Twitter platform known as X, formerly known as Twitter. But on the principle, he's talking about it like it's only happening in a vacuum.
Do you believe that people are dying because medical standards, DEI is causing medical standards to be lowered? Do you actually believe people are dying because of that?
I believe that if we lower the standards for what it takes to become a doctor.
You're saying if we lower the standards,
yes.
But do you believe people are dying because the standards are being lowered?
I don't think that is yes an issue, but it could become an issue.
Okay, but the actual evidence in history shows the exact opposite. If you look at how minorities are treated by the medical system, most doctors now are white, and there are lots of mistakes in medicine. So you're saying that white doctors have bad medical care? I'm trying to understand your logic here when it comes to DEI because there's no actual evidence of what you're saying.
No, I said if the standards, like let's say like that particular...
Dude, so much of right-wing grievance is literally, I made up this problem and it scared me in my mind. So now you have to address it. Address what? The problem I made up in my mind that scared me. But think about how scary it was when I made up this problem. I don't want to deal with your demons, man. You got to deal with it on your own. Back in the day, at least there was like some decency, you know? Not every dumb with an anonymous account could come in and chirp and make it your problem.
Things referring to surgeons. Let's say a surgeon is asked to, a surgeon in training is asked to do a series of operations under the supervision of a senior surgeon, and they get a bunch of those operations wrong. If that happens, and yet they are still approved to be a surgeon, the probability that someone will die, I think, at some point is high.
You just made up a hypothetical that has nothing to do with what is going on. Okay, right-wing argumentation. Are you ready? I made up a problem in my mind, and it scared me. Now it's your issue to deal with. Then you go, okay, but that's not what's going on. Then you go, well, what if in this hypothetical that I created in my mind where the problem does exist, right? What do you do then? And it's like, okay, but you made that problem up. He's using an analogy to describe the DEI standards. I know, but that doesn't work because that's not what the DEI standards are. That's not a real thing. That's the issue. Okay, here's why this level of argumentation is so stupid. Because the counter to that is me going, in my hypothetical, white doctors are slaughtering people, and then black doctors are much better than white doctors. What then, Elon? Don't you want all the doctors to be black then? Logically, you should want every single doctor to be a black doctor in that situation. Because both of these arguments are just completely made up. He just made up an argument where he's right. It's very stupid.
I understand that, but that's a hypothetical. That doesn't mean it's happening.
I didn't say it's happening.
You didn't say it was happening.
I said it will. I said if we lower standards, people will die.
He's also doing Mott and Bailey. Like, you're not talking about lowering standards. You're saying DEI lowers standards, which there's no no evidence for.
But why respond to something or put something out there that has not happened? Because I could say,
Because I don't want it to happen. I think we don't want to lower standards.
okay, if you look at the history of the medical industry, especially when it comes to Black Americans, it shows the exact opposite. If you look at the Tuskegee experiment and on, only 5% of doctors are in America.
Megaphonics is right. I can't believe I'm saying this. He's doing mental gymnastics to avoid coming across as overtly racist by tying the lower standards thing to DEI. Don Lamont should be doing here is, can you explain to me exactly what you mean by lowering standards when you associate it with diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives? Like exactly in your own words, what do you mean? It's so obvious that he has to exist in this like otherwise very liberal space as a billionaire, because when you get to that point, it's like you can't be like overtly racist because now you're limiting the audience that you can sell to, regardless of how racist you are personally. So he's trying to be a right-wing charlatan while simultaneously not say directly what he means. No, it's worse, because at least Jordan Peterson has done the reading to like be able to come up with like racist secondary conclusions, and he's read the racism manga. He didn't just watch the anime. And Jordan Peterson back in the day at least did a good job of never being pinned down on a question, but would like simultaneously hit the liberal adjacent note in a way that didn't offend the sensibilities of other like racist people or bigoted people that also still wanted to maintain the facade that they are liberals. That's what I mean when I say Elon doesn't even have the talking point. Elon doesn't even have the racism talking points. He didn't even watch the racism anime. He basically saw the racism anime, like snippets of it, and is just like trying to recall moments from the racism anime. He didn't even read the manga. He did not read the original stories. He knows nothing. Yeah, he did one of those like TikTok summarizations that's like 3 minutes long for 8 seasons of an anime. Basically, if the anime is the racism anime, he went and watched that TikTok and is now trying to repeat what he remembers from it. And it's odd. Yeah, doesn't know the story. His parents were there when it was written. Exactly. That's why it's odd, because his dad has like direct, close, and personal relationship. Elon does too, with the racism manga. Like he was there when they were writing. The mangakas were putting it together. At least the South African version of it. Very intellectually lazy as far as racism goes. Very offensive to me.
Like I said, my view is that the only basis for promoting somebody should be their skills, talents, and their integrity, and that's it. I
want to ask you about, there's a federal government EEOC. They are also currently involved in a lawsuit against Tesla that alleges that there's a history of widespread racial harassment against Black Tesla employees, as well as a pattern of retaliation for speaking out. What do you say to that?
I don't believe that is true. I think we've got a very good, like if you walk around the Tesla Fremont plant, I think it's a very good atmosphere.
The vibes are so good, bro. No black people, vibes on top. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I mean, there were some black people in the past, and then we discriminated against them. It was a little costly, big lawsuit. You might have heard about it, okay? But now, no black people, it's tight.
Were you aware, if you live there, were you aware of such behavior?
I never saw it.
So you're saying that this is not true, it's not happening?
I mean, there's over 20,000 people. So you say, like, oh, if there's over 20,000 people in one building, well, is everyone going to behave perfectly? No. Did I see any situations that I thought were improper? I did not.
Oh, wow. They're not being improper around me, the boss man, is one way to look at it. Or the other, much funnier way to look at it is that I don't think it's improper that they call it the plantation facility. I think that was the one, right? Like, I gave that name to the facility, so I don't think it's improper. There is literally not a single you can say about this. He objectively was so in the wrong that a court found him in the wrong for racial discrimination and harassment and forced him to pay millions of dollars. Workers at Tesla also allegedly refer to the factory as the slave ship or the plantation. In addition, no other slurs. One black worker heard these racial slurs as often as 50 to 100 times a day. Some workers at Tesla with tattoos of the Confederate flag would make their tattoos visible to intimidate black workers, according to the lawsuit. Yep, that's the one. But dude, you don't understand. The vibes were tight. Okay, the vibes were awesome. And also, not only were the vibes awesome, also, by the way, California plant with Confederate tattoos is so funny to me for many reasons, especially considering that, like, the are you doing with a Confederate tattoo in California? I know inland California has a lot of white supremacists, man. I know. I just think it's like hilarious when I see someone from Ohio rocking the stars and bars, repping the Confederate flag, Ohio as well. And it's like, I know that there's plenty of racists there. What are you doing? This is historically not an area that you were welcome. It makes no sense.
You have been deeply outspoken about the issue of trans rights. You posted trans rights. You posted that pronouns in bio mean the woke mind virus ate your brain. Do you know what the term woke actually means?
It's come to mean a lot of things.
But what originally it was meant to mean, it's just being aware of inequities in society and being aware of facts and history.
I think being aware of inequities in society is fine, of course, but trying to blame everything trying to make everything a race issue is, I think, divisive and corrosive to society.
Even as it relates to trans issues, which is what I'm...
Yeah, race or, gender or whatever.
You think that society blamed everything on racism now?
It blames a lot of things on it, and yeah.
You think that's unfair?
Yeah.
Why?
I think we should not make this a constant subject. I think we need to move on.
Damn, bro, I can't believe the apartheid guy is saying very bravely, okay, brave take from the apartheid guy. It's not the racism that sucks. It's constantly mentioning that it exists that sucks. Just want to mention that real quick. Racial inequalities are one thing. Constantly mentioning that they exist, however, that's the real problem. Okay, I say as a guy grew up in apartheid South Africa, it's fucking, kind of a yikes thing for me. I saw this growing up. It's like everyone was always talking about this thing called an apartheid, and it's like I didn't see it. There were no black people around me. In my father's emerald mind, maybe, right? There were some black people there. I didn't talk to them, but the vibes were really cool. I didn't hear anything that was disparaging. Yes, they, said the most heinous to the black people that were working in the emerald mines, but I agreed with them, so it wasn't actually concerning at all to me, because it's all about how I receive things. The existence of racial inequality is not a problem. Me hearing about it is the problem. It's me. My feelings must be spared.
Don't agree that this country was founded on racism and founded on slavery and in many ways inequities that still continue on to this day?
I think every country at that time, and I think even today, was extremely racist. Every country. Obviously, slavery was present in about half of this country, and was not present in the north. There was racism for sure.
There was no slavery in the north, just racism. It is pretty funny to be a South African dude. Okay, look at Don's face. Look, I hate Don Lemon, but at the end of the day, he's still a black American dude talking to a guy who's trying to educate him. A guy from South Africa, apartheid South Africa, trying to educate him on racism is over, Don. Racism is over. It's fine.
And instead of engaging in constant rehashing of the past, because in fact, if you look at history, if you study history broadly, everyone was a slave. Everyone.
Yes. Well, not everyone was a slave.
No,
but
everyone was a slave.
Okay, but
we are all descended from slaves.
Yeah.
This is awesome. I love this dude. My favorite type of argument. Straight up. Classic dumb white guy argument. Dude, it's just like everyone was enslaved at a certain point. Just get over it. Is that what happened? How society advanced because the Irish got over it. Chattel slavery is unique in its cruelty, in its mass adoption, and also how long it continued for. That's the reason why no historian would ever agree to everybody got enslaved at a certain point. Irish historians would not agree to that. Okay? It's about continued material inequalities. It is about the gross human rights atrocities that were committed. For example, maybe he should ask Elon, okay, so the Holocaust happened. Would you tell the Jews to get over it? Or do you think that Germany was wrong for offering reparations? Or do you think that Jews got over it and that's why they were able to, in the Western world and in many other places, be able to become more prominent individuals in society? Or do you think that the in-group that normally would continue their oppression brought them into the in-group? Perhaps there is one thing missing from black people in this equation, being offered to be a part of the in-group.
So it's just a question of when. Was it more recent or less recent? That's it.
Right.
So but what future do we want? Is this something we want to make a part of our constant dialogue forever? Or do we want to say, let's just move on and treat everyone?
This is painful white guy take, because the only way that this touches him is the dialogue, is just the mere mention of it, is when he hears it. So that's why in his mind, it's yeah, why are you still talking about it? We've already moved on. He's I've moved on from it. Shut up. And it's crazy. There's still very obvious material inequalities that exist and persist in contemporary society due to chattel slavery and also what we did after the abolition of slavery. It's ridiculous to be just move on, I don't get it. Just stop talking about it. By the way, talking about it shouldn't bother you unless you're a racist piece of... People wouldn't find themselves in need of talking about it if there weren't so many people who just refuse to acknowledge it.